Hi, Shon.
Hi, Cristina. It's scary out there.
Is it scary out there? We're going to talk about it. So, if you are on LinkedIn or the platform formerly known as Twitter, or probably any like Reddit, any of these platforms, you're probably seeing the SaaSpocalypse, the term du jour with all of us SaaS people. So we've been talking about this and sort of the trends leading into this for months, quite a lot here at Pandium. And we thought, why don't we record this so everyone can hear our thoughts about this? No, but really, I do think it's an interesting topic. And before we get started, Shon, who are you and why are you here?
I am CTO, Chief Technical Officer, and co-founder of Pandium, and I am here because we decided to make this video.
Excellent reason. And I'm Cristina. I'm the CEO of Pandium. We do integration stuff. So for folks who don't know who we are, Pandium is a platform that other software companies use to build software integrations. So whenever we hear about SaaS going away or anything related to SaaS generally, it's something that's interesting to us. And as mentioned, like my LinkedIn feed is just constant SaaSpocalypse over the past week or so. It's, this kind of idea that software is suddenly going to disappear because of AI has been trending for the last, I don't know, maybe like 18 months since ChatGPT and Claude really kicked off. But I think the big sort of push into this more recent wave was when some of the big tech companies lost a bunch of value in the stock market. I think it was last week. So it was like $300 billion was wiped out of SaaS in a few days. Now, I don't think Shon, you or I are equipped or interested in commenting on the stock market more generally, but that was enough to like spook a lot of people, I think, and kind of bubble a lot of this stuff up to the surface. And it coincided pretty closely with, although I don't know if it was directly related to, some of the new Claude stuff that's launched. And, all of my techie podcasts are talking about this, and it's all coming together with SaaS is going away, which I think is a very broad and general statement that lacks a whole lot of nuance. And where I come from is thinking about SaaS as like literally what I believe it to be, which is software as a service, which is typically software that you buy as an ongoing license that is deployed to the cloud often. Sometimes it's on-prem, usually to the cloud, which is basically any software that you use in a business or that you pay for today. Well, I think there's a couple of things here, right? Like the SaaSpocalypse, I think in how it's being presented to me is more targeted than just the general AI is going to take everybody's jobs, which I think is a totally like a valid conversation. And I was also like ready to throw something at the TV when I was watching the Super Bowl, which we're recording this the day after the Super Bowl. So I was watching with non-tech friends and was like screaming, that is not going to work. Like, don't tell the people to tell, Gemini to do their master planning for them or whatever, but that's like a separate thing. I think what I'm thinking about when I see the SaaSpocalypse on my feeds is more around this build versus buy thing, right? So I think it is being presented as SaaS is going away, which in my mind means software is going away in some way, because SaaS is just software that you pay a license for. So some portion of that is going away because people are going to build everything themselves. And with AI, it's implied that that is going to be possible because of AI. And so it begs a few questions, right? Like one is, can you build a thing that will replace all your software? Can you build enough things that will replace these things that you're paying a lot of money for? Can anybody do that? Like, can any one company rebuild everything that they're currently using? And then the second question is, if you are able to do that, like let's say that I can vibe code my way into getting rid of 10 SaaS licenses over the weekend, let's pretend that it's actually as good as all of those 10 things are as standalone products, which I'm not convinced of. Were those 10 products like good to begin with? Were they defensible? Was there an actual moat? Could I just have switched to the next cheapest thing? So I do think it's problematic to say that SaaS is going away. There's the SaaSpocalypse, to lump all different kinds of technology that is used together instead of doing something, again, that I think the tech industry is not great at, which is thinking of it in a more nuanced way. Like, what are the small things that we can potentially replace in a safe and controlled way that makes economic sense for our business and our lives, which is a much less cool like headline, I guess. But is, I think, what they're describing. Go ahead.
One of the interesting things I was thinking along there is like there's basic like business liability that goes into some of this stuff. Like you can replace a software process, a deterministic one, with a non-deterministic one, like with an AI that just on ad hoc is like moving things. But like, what happens when that AI makes a mistake? And like in my mind, that's no real different than like what happens when a human makes a mistake. Mistakes happen. The difference is like there's insurance companies that are willing to insure humans. Are insurance companies going to come in and start insuring AI like output and stuff? And this I know is really, but I've been really thinking about it. Like, how could, like, what is the thing that would cause an actual sea change where people are no longer in the process? Because you're always going to need a human in the loop.
I think this is even a step like in a different direction from that, right? Like the SaaSpocalypse is not talking about replacing humans. It's talking about replacing software.
I know.
So like
for me, they're the same almost.
They're sort of the same, but they're kind of different, right? Like what the SaaSpocalypse, I believe, is describing is that you as a person that works at a company are going to be able to build all your own software for yourself, and you're not going to buy anything, right? So it's not saying that we're going to get rid of you, human that works in customer support at Acme Co, but it's saying that you, person it's in customer support at Acme Co, are going to build all the tooling that your department needs and are not going to have to buy anything. So there is actually liability related to that too, but it's all sort of like confined within your four walls. So it makes it slightly different, right? Like you are building your own risk versus parlaying that risk onto an external vendor. It is real. It is real, but there's security problems. There's all kinds of stuff, right?
That's the build your own issue at the very core. It's like you could build it yourself and you can have to maintain it. And there are never going to be enough people who know that system because it is your own bespoke system. One of the things you get by using these platforms or using known technologies is like massive mind share of people. Maybe, and this is where it gets down to like, is it people or software we're removing? Like, could I build a Jira replacement? Sure. But like, why would I waste the time of even like the tokens? Think about all the trees I would burn building a Jira.
Well, nobody. But let's maybe think about it like for companies that are scared, right? For SaaS companies like us that are nervous about the SaaSpocalypse. And I've been hearing about the SaaSpocalypse for 2 years. Like there were CEOs at events I was at, dinners, friends, 2 years ago that were like, software is going away. What are we going to do? I was like, I don't think that that's coming as quickly as you think it is. Like what are the reasons that you think that folks think that this is possible, not from a technical perspective? So like, why be nervous at all? Like when I look at this stuff, I'm aligned with a lot of what you're saying around like building Jira. If we use Jira, HubSpot, some of these types of tools, I'm like, I am never going to build a better HubSpot myself. Like I don't, not even if I had all the technical acumen in the world and I could prompt my way to doing it, I don't have the 20 years of working with thousands or tens of thousands or millions of users across many companies to be able to figure out the best way to solve these problems. But there's got to be a reason that this SaaSpocalypse thing, that this feeling is bubbling up. My LinkedIn feed is also filled with people being like, I canceled $14 worth of subscriptions and I spent the weekend rebuilding it. And I'm like, is that really worth the time for $14 a month? From your perspective, being an engineer, I'm wondering like what you think what's the impulse? What's the payoff to like trying to do that in the first place instead of just keeping your $14 subscriptions?
Why?
I have my own feelings about it, but like I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I don't like buying software licenses. It just feels, especially on a personal level. I know this is like so antithetical to what we do, but like in a business sense, it makes a lot of sense to me. And this is a part of like, I think another point that we can touch on, but it's like a set of SaaS is going to go away. Like the lazy SaaS, the thing that's one feature and like I could literally build in a weekend. They're like when people say, hey, I'm going to build Jira in a weekend, they don't have Jira, to your point, right? Like there's thousands and thousands of hours of ticket like management that Jira goes through. And as much as I rail against Jira and all its massive UX changes over the years, they are great at doing tickets and managing and keeping people in sync. And like, am I going to get people using my new system? You're going to have to get those people to use it or get the AIs to use it. If that's what you're thinking, oh, I'll just get a bunch of agents to do that. The agent's not going to know anything about your system.
Is it hubris that is the reason you don't want to buy?
Oh, yeah, hubris. That's a great.
I'm trying to like tap into like the emotional side of this. It's like, why do people want to spend the weekend rebuilding Trello when Trello is free most of the time? And I'm maybe Trello not.
The to-do app is like this constant thing that people build.
these are tools that are so cheap usually that people are replacing. They're so cheap also because there's like a race to the bottom for cost because a lot of them become commoditized. But it's like, yeah, I'm going to save that $5.99 a month. And I'm like, why are you spending 20 hours on your weekend building that? Why? Tell me.
Oh, well, I think part of it is just like you're accomplishing something, and this goes to a thing I read today from the Harvard Business School where they did research on AI usage, and like one of the things they were talking about was like and it wasn't necessarily a positive article, but it's like you feel like you're doing more because you're able to approach problems that you don't necessarily have expertise in a lot easier. It's easier to get past that blank wall, that blank white page problem where like, hey, I don't know how to start. And I think people like that adrenaline rush. I know I do. And so like that is definitely one reason why people it's mostly like engineering dudes or gals like, hey, I'm going to replace all my things. And like that's the trope anyway that I see all over Hacker News. I don't know if like Jira is going to rebuild whoever they use for application performance monitoring all of a sudden as the other side of this. Like, why would you try to vibe code a platform that you have nothing to do with as a business? It doesn't make sense from a business case is all I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, but also like the flip side of the hubris of doing it is maybe like I'm on the lazy side. Like I'm a lazy person that doesn't want to build my own software. So like you love it because you get that dopamine rush and you're like, I just rebuild Trello in a weekend. And I love Trello. Don't tag us. Like I'm not suggesting anyone rebuilds Trello. But like a Kanban board is a thing that has existed for a billion years, right? I'm sure there's open source products that can give you a Kanban board. But I'm on the flip side of that where I'm like, I will pay the $5 or the $20 or whatever it is. Cause like I don't actually want to spend my weekend thinking about that. And I think there is like that early adopter, like tinkerer mindset that can lead and is much easier to digest for folks that are not engineers that have that same impulse with all of this vibe coding stuff, right? It's like you can get that dopamine hit very quickly. But to your point, it's like, how close to parity are you actually getting? And how close to parity with something that is fully formed and has been tested across, billions of hours of usage? I would say probably not that close. And if you're using your Trello board to like manage your, internal household schedule or tasks or something, maybe your vibe coded thing is good, but like, do you want to use that to replace your Jira experience?
Well, it's even more like people aren't even coding these recipes anymore. They're just like leaving it to the agent to figure out every time. So like there's this big software project that got like the number of stars is ridiculous, like 166,000 in 2 months on GitHub called OpenClaw. I don't know how much you're following all that stuff. And like that's literally a mini integration platform that sits on your desktop and you are supposed to allow it to connect to each of your different services that you're using. So your Discord, your iMessage, your Slack, your email, your credit card companies, whatever, your Amazon, right? And then the idea is like I can now Discord bot the thing from anywhere and be like, hey, go order me a replacement thing. But it's not deterministic because no one sat there and said, this is exactly how you do it. It has all the permissions of the user, which the user isn't reading any of the permissions. Like, yeah, like you can accidentally ask it to order diapers and maybe you'll end up with, in the best case, something totally, I mean, even now, a human will place your orders. I mean, my point is like, it's really scary.
I mean, that's why they were having a run on, Mac Minis because people physically partition it away from their like regular operating system, which is also so funny. And like you want to trust it to do things, but like the whole value is that it can do things for you, but you're setting up an entire environment specifically for it, like in a zoo, right? So that it can't actually do anything. And like I get sandboxing and like all this stuff. Like I know how this works, but like it's like this rush to make our lives better and easier by bringing in more technology and trying to then create guardrails around it that will allow it to do just the thing that we want it to do is just like a funny like reinvention of permissioning in my mind. So like let's pretend that you vibe code something and like it's probably 60% of the way there, but you think it's 100% of the way there. And you're like, cool, we're going to cancel our Trello. I'm going to keep picking on Trello. Sorry. We're going to cancel our Trello subscription for my company. And we're going to use this thing. Like what happened? Like, what are the long-term consequences of that, I guess, in your mind? And you and I are around the same age. Like we have lived through the era of custom software in the early 2000s.
Well, I said earlier, you're just now behooving to, a very limited pool of engineers who understand the core system. Unless you're really willing to let the AI just manage it all for you. Anytime you need to, a person leaves or transitions, you're going to be in a lot of risk there. You're now also responsible if like the service is down as a human. So like if the thing goes down at 3 a.m. and your CEO needs to be in their custom Trello board, like that's on you to like now be in there and figure out like, and if it's so core to your business, like if it goes down, like you're vastly increasing your operational risk, I think is the short of it.
I was reflecting on this. I've actually been thinking about it a lot about like the early 2000s. I was doing consulting then, and we were taking folks very often from paper and pencil or in-house built software, because like the late 90s, early 2000s, like before that there was software too, but less common. Like there was no SaaS, right? Like you had an operating system that you purchased on a set of floppy disks or CDs. You had like a couple pieces of software that were like out the box, but at a business you were often building stuff yourself because that was the only option, or you were like bolting together DBs and all this stuff. You had your servers in your closet. And then there was this wave of software and the cloud and this huge push to get off of all of this custom made stuff and get onto something that was hosted, was supported by someone else, was able to be reused across your entire organization, and didn't rely on that one DBA to be like the only person that understood how that piece of software worked. And this to me is like a little micro version of swinging back in the other direction. It's like we had this huge digital transformation was the term that was coined, right? To be like getting off of your homegrown. And now we're like, no, we're actually going to go back to that. We're going to still be cloud-based, but we're going to make everything hyper customized just to us. And I think the same problems are going to exist. It's different because it's not on a server in your closet. It's like you don't have that operational overhead, but it's also not being built by software engineers in a lot of instances, which introduces a whole nother set of problems, right? Like you don't have that one DBA that knows how to do everything. You have an ops intern that has been gone for 3 years, if your software lasts that long, right? Maybe that is what's going to happen. I can't see the future, but I could also see a world where like we have a whole set of consultants like I was that are coming in to digitally transform you back to the thing that is like the industry standard.
And I don't mean to like, the time is like a great compressor, and I think there is like a phase you're missing, and I don't mean to contradict, but like, yeah, there was a lot of custom software, but there was also a lot of software. Jira is an example of this. When I first encountered Jira, it was an application you installed on premise on your own hardware. They didn't go cloud until much later, and it was a different product actually. And like, there are a lot of ERPs which are still very much not cloud-based that are powering entire industries where, yeah, the difference is either you're using this, like, you're using a 30-year-old ERP, or you're doing it by pen and paper. And like, it's interesting to see like, how's the AI going to get down into those like areas where like people are still like transacting with paper and stuff. And like, I guess you build software to do that, or you have the agents do it. I don't know, man. It's all a little silly. A lot of words.
Well, but then, so I think the sort of prevailing narrative about that specific thing you just described 5 years ago would be that you would replace that on-prem 30-year-old green screen ERP with a cloud-based system of record of some kind, whether that's an ERP or a PIM or whatever it is that's like good for that specific business, and this constellation of point solutions, right? So it's this idea of being composable. And now we're saying that many of those building blocks in that composable stack are no longer valuable because of the SaaSpocalypse. We're going to replace all of those with custom-made stuff. I think there is a world, there's definitely software that can be replaced by other things, right? Whether it's that a larger company gobbles up a lot of that type of software and it becomes a feature of a larger suite of tools as like a general sort of rule for that industry. I think that we're going to see that happening because there's definitely a ton of point solutions for everything. And I think for companies that are relatively shallow and are not like sufficiently differentiated and plugged into all of the other tools within that sort of customer ecosystem, there's a real danger there, right? Like if you're a one-trick pony and
you're not a platform. Yep.
No, I mean, well, the platform word is like so overused.
No, but I
Everything's a
mean,
platform, but
I
like,
know there's a whole thing, but like if you're not truly a platform is a place where people are connecting. Like you're the hub in a hub and spoke, right? And like where people, hey, I need to get my accounting software into this system, or hey, I need to like plug in this new sales channel versus like you are the end point. But I don't know.
well, there's also just like tools that maybe some of this like AI related stuff really lends themselves well to, right? Like there's a lot in like the data enrichment space that can be done, that can be automated, that you maybe don't need quite as many paid tools for. And there's so many tiny little widgety kinds of apps that have created like small companies around them that I do think are at risk, right? And when I think about like what are those tools, I look at again at industries where these software products have just gotten freer and freer and freer and freer. That would be concerning to me. Like as a business owner, I would be like, that's not great, because that means that the switching cost is very low if users are able to bounce around between these tools. That means like the integrations are probably important, but they're sort of ubiquitous within that industry. So like your competitors also have them, so it's not necessarily as much of a moat anymore. And it also means that your users have a very high degree of price sensitivity, and like they don't care about your company that much. Like they're willing to go wherever it's the cheapest. And that's where, we may see like a lot of shrinking of the number of companies that do X, Y, and Z thing. But I still just am not bought into this idea that all this vibe coded stuff is going to replace 70% of software, or if you go on Twitter, 150% of software. Like there will be no software, also because this vibe coded stuff is software. So I have a problem with the semantics around this as well, but like I don't need to get into that with everybody that's watching this. But like the SaaSpocalypse, like anything that you're building, if you're paying a license to anybody, including the Claude code, like there's SaaS right there. Like that's what that is, right? We can call it something else if we want to call it credits. But I will say when I'm seeing a lot of these stories on the internet, it's a lot of people that are like not super thrilled with whatever they're using, and like are saying they're going to build something that's going to be like more tailored to their needs, which to me means like building something better. It's better for them. I'm not saying that they're saying it's better than the overall thing, but they think it's better for what they need. And so I think going back, like if you're a company that has users and you have concerns about this, like really tapping into what those users are actually saying about using your product is important. Like really staying on top of that, and just not just relying on the fact that like it's easy for them to use it. Like they need to be maybe not delighted, but at least be happy with the experience. They'll be less likely to spend the weekend or ask somebody to spend the weekend tinkering to build the thing in house. I also think there's going to be a massive rebound, right? There's going to be a bunch of stuff that like people build, and then it's that person leaves, and then they have to go buy something. Unfortunately, I don't tech moves.
Well, that was what I was gonna say. Like, you can vibe code any service by yourself, but is it gonna be running in a year? Like, I know personally. So this just goes into the home lab stuff, where I'm hosting my own photo catalog. Like, I don't want to use Google Photos or whatever it is, and like, one of the things I'm facing, this was like 10 years ago, is like I have to go now and access this archive that I don't really remember how I put together or any of that. This is going to be even worse with vibe coded applications, because like you're going to, it's going to go down in 3 months. It's not going to be important to you. And then because it was so cheap to make, and then all of a sudden it becomes very important to you. And like, it's hard to recover from those things.
With the pending, maybe SaaSpocalypse, maybe not. What do you think companies can do to try to, I'm not going to say future proof because I hate that, but to try to ward off becoming the victim of the SaaSpocalypse?
I was hinting at this a little bit earlier. I think you need to, this is going to sound counterintuitive, but you actually almost have to really work on your APIs and become really, really integrated with the vertical you're serving, right? So like, make it so that your data and your processing of that data and your whatever you're doing adds value, so you don't get replaced. What's really interesting though is about LLMs is like the API itself. And I know people are always pushing MCP and all that stuff. It doesn't actually matter anymore. Like your user interface is an API for these agents now. Like I could drive a headless browser that goes through a website and as long as I follow the same operations, like it'll do the thing. So it's either really focus on your UX, really focus on your APIs, do both. Like be a good product. I don't know. It's like it's crazy.
Well, I think there was a long period of time where being a standalone product and like being like, other people can plug into us if they really
Right.
are cool was like an acceptable thing. And I think that's becoming, I mean, that's the whole reason we exist, right? Is that we think that despite talking about point solutions and like shallow solutions, I do think that like we will continue to have a market for highly specialized tooling in software. Like, hey, this is software that does this thing really, really great. And the closer you can be to all the other sort of irreplaceable products that your customers use, like they're not coming off of XYZ thing, the better off you will be. And also, even if somebody internally or whatever can vibe code their way to whatever that thing is, I have no idea how a vibe coded application integrates into anything else. Like I fear how that would even work at all. So like whatever you're building, your Trello board,
Better have a good UX or some experience that allows you to
could you imagine trying to like it's hard enough with like well documented systems with well used APIs. Like I have no idea what one of those, like what a Replit app would look like trying to plug that into Salesforce. Like someone will comment on this and tell me that it's like super easy and their swarm of agents does it. Like, okay. But my advice to software companies would be like prioritize those things because these vibe coded things are not going to do it as well. Like it's just, I will hang my hat on that. There are companies that have been around for decades and have really good APIs and still have a hard time. I don't think that prompting your way to building the next calculator app is going to give you like a great API or something, but could be wrong in the future. These things are cyclical, right? Like this is the newest apocalypse. Like there was before this recent, in the recent past, there was Web 3, like Web 2 was going away and there was apocalypse and all of these, there's always something. There's always
Web3, that's Bitcoin. Yeah. Silly.
Everything is going to be on the blockchain. Like I reference all the time, but like that was a real talk track. It was more self-contained within our weird little industry than what we see now watching the Super Bowl and everybody being told that they can build everything and they don't need to do anything and the robots are replacing us all. But I think this is the same. I mean, this is what happens with like vibe coding and low code everything, right? It's like you have early adopters that get really excited that like they're enabled to do something. And then when you try to get that stuff into production, which in this example is like in the hands of your colleagues or whoever is supposed to be using this at your company, starts to fall apart really quickly. I personally hope that companies don't like do the hard cutover, like that they treat this like a real kind of software project. And like, if you're going to be coming off of Trello or coming off of Jira, or you're getting rid of your project management tool or getting rid of Adobe or whatever, that like, you're not just trusting the person that vibe coded it, but that you're actually like running a process to parallelize it and make sure that everything works. Because to your point, you don't want to be cutting that stuff off and then find out in 6 months that like you actually needed all those backups that you had on that other tool and all that reporting. And like, I didn't even think about the historic data that comes with all of this stuff. Like if you're at a real company, like how do you get all that?
Yeah, there's a whole thing we haven't even talked about. Like currently token prices are not correct. Yes. Price, like they're massively subsidized, and so
when that agent swarm is more expensive than a team of engineers, like as expensive, what's the value prop going to look like then during the post SaaSpocalypse world, where the hellscape of the post SaaSpocalypse? Oh man, this could be fun. The post SaaSpocalypse.
I wish Silicon Valley was still around.
Oh my god, what a truth teller! What a future! What an oracle! What an oracle that is.
You get office space.
Oh,
all right.
So good. So TLDR, we only sort of believe in the SaaSpocalypse. Don't believe in it to the extent that LinkedIn would tell you that it's coming. I think
it's not a good event
on it. I think there's definitely reasons to be nervous about companies that are not fully integrated into like an entire ecosystem of tools. Like that makes it just that much harder to move off of them, already have a churn problem for whatever reason, and or operate in a very crowded environment where the unit economics have gotten really bad because everything has to be so inexpensive. And that level of price intolerance is a signal of the value, either the value that the users see in this tool or just how congested that industry has become. And like, that's not good, right? If your whole product is like super commoditized, like that would definitely, I would get a little nervous about that, but less nervous that someone's going to vibe code it and more nervous that like one of the big guys is just going to incorporate your
That's
stuff as a
always
feature.
the virus. Yeah, that's always like the real fear, I think, is.
Yeah, for some reason, I feel like it's so much more acute right now, though, with the SaaSpocalypse. Like, I feel like that is always like if you're a feature and not a product, that should always be concerning. I guess it now feels more real because like your intern could be vibe coding your product, but like you got to figure out how to have a moat in some way, shape, or form, or just be like so easy to use and the price is so good and like your brand equity is so good within your customers that like they're just going to stick with you, which I think is a real thing. Like you're
It's
like, I'm just
100.
willing to overlook that I don't like that I'm paying a little bit more because like I like this tool, I'm used to this tool, like I use it every day. It's
I like the
perfect.
people behind the tool.
I like the people
I think
behind
that's
it.
huge
I think they're not
part.
turds. Like I think
Right.
I think that is also a meaningful thing, right? Especially with this sort of explosion of AI, which is faceless, nameless. I mean, it is sycophantic. It will be really nice to you, which is a thing that you don't always get from your colleagues and your vendors, but and your customers. But you know, we're real humans. So yeah, I'm interested to see how the SaaSpocalypse narrative continues to shake out. And I definitely agree with you that I think the actual apocalypse of all of this will be the AI token apocalypse that comes when, for whatever, however it shakes out, these tokens are no longer subsidized to the extent that they're subsidized right now. That is the apocalypse that I am keeping an eye out for. Is
Or video cards get so cheap that you can do this locally. And that's another whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Whole
Well,
video
that's the flip of that, right? Where it's like now the tokens don't get expensive; they're basically free. But that means that those companies are losing massive amounts of value. Which
Yeah,
is
they are.
that is the apocalypse. I'd be concerned.
Then there'll be an AI apocalypse after the SaaS apocalypse.
It's the post SaaSpocalypse hellscape will be the bot apocalypse. I don't know, man. This is too.
I want a robot.
I want like the Jetsons. I want a
Me
robot
Betty.
butler. Where do I sign up for that? Where's? I was
Where's
told
the
we'd
one?
have flying cars. Barely even have self-driving cars. What a mess. If you stuck with us, thanks for watching. Thanks for playing.
I'm sorry.
Check out pandium.com. We have more, not this many ramblings, but we do have some. But we also have things that are topical and might actually help you in your job towards being a platform and towards having a product that folks love to use and that folks are reliant on in a good way. Your customers need and want to use every day and don't want to switch off of and don't want to spend their entire weekend vibe coding. Because like, also, you guys are so weird. Who wants to do that all weekend?
I do. It's fun.
Yeah, not my people. All right. Thank you, Shon.
Bye-bye. Thanks,
Talk to you
Christina.
later.